I've worked security jobs for celebrities, politicians, even billionaires. I've seen fights break out in penthouses, people overdose in bathrooms, and desperate fans jump fences just to touch someone famous. But nothing, not one thing in my life, could have prepared me for what I saw in the VIP room at Diddy's party. What happened that night didn't just follow me home. It never left. I was broke when I got the call. Football dreams had died with a torn ACL and too many concussions. I'd bounced around doing odd jobs, trying to figure out who I was without the pads and stadium lights. My old buddy Corey, who ran private security gigs in the city, hit me up with something he said was easy money. Babysitting an up-and-coming rapper, fresh out the studio, trying to make a name for himself. I'll call him Wayne. That's not his real name. And trust me, if you knew what I know, you'd understand why I'll never say it.
There was something about him like he was moving too fast for the world to catch up. The first time we met, he practically bounced off the lobby walls of a midtown studio. All nerves and swagger rolled into one. He locked eyes with me and said, "You the guy?" Like he was casting a movie and had just found his bodyguard. Yeah, I was the guy. And from that moment, I became the shadow, trailing behind him. Never too close, never involved. I was trained to observe, not participate. Corey had drilled it into me. You're not a friend. You're a firewall. It worked for a while, until the envelope. That envelope, crisp and white, was sealed with gold foil. Wayne was holding it like it contained the secrets of the universe. He waved it in front of my face like a trophy, barely able to contain himself. Diddy's white party, man, this is it. His hands were shaking, not from fear, but from adrenaline, from the sheer weight of what that invitation meant in his world. A golden ticket to the kind of room where careers are made and souls sometimes are traded. He didn't know yet that some doors open both ways. And once you walk through them, there's no coming back. We left the city just before sunset. Wayne had changed twice before deciding on a tailored white suit that looked like it had been flown in from Milan. He kept fiddling with his sleeves, checking his watch even though he wasn't late. The car smelled like cologne and anxiety. He asked if I'd ever been to one of these parties before. I told him I hadn't, but I'd heard enough. Stories whispered among security crews and industry runners. Stories that started with glamour and ended in silence. Nobody ever talked specifics. Just knowing glances, warnings buried in smiles. As we drove through East Hampton, the landscape shifted. The streets grew wider. The houses disappeared behind iron gates and trimmed hedges. When we pulled up to the estate, it didn't look like a house. It looked like a compound carved into a hillside, surrounded by rolling lawns and white-gloved staff who didn't speak unless spoken to. The gates opened without a word. No names asked, no ID checked. It was like they'd been waiting. Inside, the party was already pulsing. The estate was bathed in soft golden light. Canopies stretched over marble patios. Champagne flowed like water. There were celebrities, real ones, not influencers, not TikTokers. The kind of faces you see on billboards in Times Square. And not a single one of them looked surprised to be there. The music was low, almost like it was designed not to interrupt conversations. But it had a rhythm, a subtle undercurrent that felt more like a heartbeat than a song. Wayne stuck close to me for the first half hour, eyes wide, soaking in every detail. He was quiet for once, not shy, just overwhelmed. The scale of it, the casual power on display. People in that room didn't ask for things, they summoned them.
We hadn't even crossed the main atrium before Diddy appeared. He moved through the crowd like gravity itself. Everyone parted. Everyone smiled. He welcomed Wayne with open arms, as if they'd known each other for years. It was rehearsed, polished, but there was a sharpness to it, a calculation. He looked at me, and for a second, the air between us shifted. He said, "Enjoy yourselves. Make sure you see everything there is to see."
The words echoed as he vanished into the crowd. Not what you'd expect. Not have fun or stay safe. He said, "See everything." That was the first time I realized this party wasn't about celebration. It was about exposure. I noticed it an hour later. Not the party, the shift. The energy changed. Something under the surface started vibrating a little harder. The champagne didn't taste as sweet. The laughs grew louder, then suddenly stopped. Conversations turned into whispers that dropped when you got too close. Wayne was fitting in now, floating from group to group like he belonged. He clinked glasses with a singer whose last album broke every streaming record, took shots with a producer I recognized from a viral interview. But I wasn't watching him anymore. I was watching the others. A pattern emerged. There were people here who weren't celebrating. They weren't networking. They weren't even smiling. They were waiting. Their eyes kept shifting toward a specific corner of the room, a spot behind a velvet curtain, a door. Barely noticeable if you weren't looking for it. It didn't belong. No glass, no chrome, no designer touch. Just plain wood, aged and out of place. Like it had been part of a different building that the estate had been built around. The first time someone slipped through it, I thought they were staff. They moved quickly, quietly, no drinks in hand. The second time, it was a guest in a white evening gown. She glanced around before disappearing behind the curtain like she didn't want to be seen. By the third time, I couldn't ignore it anymore. I waited until Wayne was deep in conversation with a record executive laughing too loud at something that wasn't funny. Then I moved. I walked casually, slow and deliberate. No one stopped me. No one asked what I was doing. In a room full of people, it was like I was invisible. The curtain parted with a whisper. The door opened easily. Behind it, a hallway, dimensions narrow, lined with velvet drapes. The floor was marble, but worn. Like this part of the house had seen different use, different rituals. The deeper I walked, the more detached I felt from the party behind me. The music vanished. The air turned colder. The hum started. A low, vibrating tone that didn't come from speakers or machinery. It felt like it came from the walls themselves. I passed empty picture frames, carved symbols etched lightly into the plaster. A scent lingered in the air, something musky and sweet, but with an edge I couldn't name. Not at first. Then I realized it was blood. The hallway ended at another door. This one different. It wasn't just old. It felt ancient. The wood was dark, splintered in places, and the same red symbol I'd seen on the guest cards was carved deep into its center. Unlike the others, this door pulsed. Not literally, but with energy. I felt it before I touched it,
like heat rising from the skin of someone with a fever.
Beyond it, I heard something strange. Voices, low, repetitive, not speaking, chanting. The rhythm was off-kilter, like a language made of breath and bone. My instinct screamed at me to turn around. But curiosity is a dangerous thing. I opened the door. It hit me like a wave. The smell was the first thing. Incense mixed with iron, thick, metallic. There was no mistaking it now. It was blood. Old, dried, and fresh. My stomach flipped. The room was vast, too large to be under a house. The walls were covered in jagged markings, some drawn in black, others glowing faint red. The flickering candlelight danced across them, casting long, slithering shadows that moved like they had lives of their own. At the center of it all, a stone altar, black-stained, slick with something wet. Around it stood a circle of figures cloaked in white robes, still, silent. And standing at the edge of that circle was Wayne. He looked lost, not scared exactly, but paralyzed, like he didn't fully understand where he was or how he'd gotten there. His face was pale and his hands hung at his sides like dead weight. The robe he wore didn't fit him right. His sneakers were still on. I ducked behind a pillar, heart hammering, trying to understand what I was looking at. That's when I saw Diddy. But this wasn't the man who greeted us upstairs. He was shirtless now, his body glistening with that same dark oil. Symbols were painted across his chest and arms, and they shimmered under the candlelight. He looked different, taller somehow. His presence filled the room. He raised his hands, and the chanting stopped. "This is the vessel," he intoned, voice deeper than before, almost inhuman. I couldn't breathe. The temperature dropped as he stepped forward, the space around him warping like heat waves in reverse. Wayne tensed. His whole body stiffened. Diddy placed his hand on the kid's chest, then slid it lower, painting a symbol with his fingers across Wayne's abdomen. "Through flesh," he said. "Through pain. Through surrender. The architect comes." Wayne's back arched as if an invisible wire yanked him toward the ceiling. His mouth opened wide, but no sound came out at first. Just a gurgling gasp, like he was trying to scream underwater. Then he let out a sound I'll never forget. It wasn't human. It was ancient. A wail from the bottom of something that had no bottom. The markings on the walls began to glow brighter. The chanting returned, louder, more urgent, growing into a unified hum that seemed to vibrate through the ground itself. And then it started. Wayne's skin rippled. Not metaphorically, literally, like something was trying to claw its way out from beneath. Dark veins appeared across his arms and neck, his fingers clenched into claws. Shadows bled from his pores, curling up into the air like smoke. I pressed myself against the wall, unable to look away. From the smoke rose a form, first formless, then slowly taking shape. It looked like a man, but not. It was taller than any person should be. Its body writhed and flickered like flame trapped in ink. Two eyes, burning red, opened where its face should be. They didn't glow. They pierced the architect. I felt it enter me without moving. My thoughts weren't safe. It tore through them like pages in a book, lingering on memories I'd buried, fears I'd never spoken aloud. It didn't just look at you, it read you.
The robed figures dropped to their knees. Diddy stepped back, arms raised, his voice trembling as he whispered words I didn't understand. And Wayne was gone. Not dead, but not Wayne anymore. His body crumpled to the ground, convulsing, his face twisted in agony. The architect hovered above him, tendrils of darkness reaching down, folding around him like claws. Then, one final scream. Wayne's body arched off the ground. The shadows swallowed him, and when they receded, the thing lying on the floor wasn't Wayne. It was a shell. The vessel had been filled. I didn't plan to run. I didn't even realize I had moved until I was halfway to the door. My legs carried me, mine still stuck in that room. Stuck on that moment where the world bent around something it wasn't meant to hold. No one followed me. Not the robed figures. Not Diddy. They were frozen in worship, transfixed by the thing they'd summoned. Their silence was louder than any scream. I hit the hallway like a runner coming up for air. The hum followed me, chasing me like a second heartbeat. I stumbled up the narrow staircase, nearly tripping over my own feet, the cold wrapping around my shoulders like hands. And then I was back at the party. Back in the glitter, the music, the laughter. But something had changed. I pushed through the crowd. People began turning one by one. Their smiles dropped. Their eyes tracked me. They weren't confused. They weren't alarmed. They were curious, coldly curious, as if I was part of the show now, as if I'd seen what they already knew. The servers didn't blink when I shoved past. One dropped a tray of champagne glasses at my feet and didn't flinch. I burst through the front doors. The night air hit me like a slap. Cold. Real. The black SUV was still there, parked at the edge of the driveway like a lifeline. The driver looked up from his phone and blinked at the sight of me. "You good?" "No," I gasped. "Just drive." He looked at me, really looked, then nodded and got behind the wheel. I slammed the door shut, heart pounding. We peeled off fast, tires squealing on the cobblestone. As the estate faded behind us, I finally exhaled. But then, something told me to look back. I shouldn't have. Way down the driveway, at the edge of the shadows, was Wayne. Or what was left of him. His skin was covered in those symbols. His eyes, red, empty, watching. And I knew he wasn't Wayne anymore. The farther we drove, the less human I felt. I sat in the back of that SUV like a ghost hitching a ride. My body was trembling, soaked in sweat. Muscles still tense like I hadn't left that room at all. Every time I blinked, I saw it. The altar, the smoke, those red burning eyes staring straight into the softest parts of me. My thoughts weren't mine anymore. They had fingerprints on them now. The driver didn't ask questions. Just glanced at me once through the mirror, eyebrows raised slightly, then kept his eyes on the road. I think he knew not to ask. I think maybe he'd driven others like me before. Eventually, I risked it. I looked back. The mansion was almost out of view, distant and golden and still. Too still. But at the very edge of the property, just beyond the last curve of the drive, there it was. Him. Wayne, or what he had become,
stood completely still beneath the glow of a lamppost. His white robe hung from his shoulders, now stained and tattered. His chest was bare, covered in carved symbols that seemed to pulse like veins under his skin. His face, blank, eyes glowing faint red like dying embers. He didn't move, but he was looking straight at me. My breath caught in my throat. I couldn't look away. That thing, that shell, knew who I was, and it was letting me know it remembered. My voice cracked, faster. The driver didn't turn. He just nodded and hit the gas, tires screeching again as we sped down that long, winding road. But it didn't matter how far we got. The look in Wayne's eyes had followed me. And I knew in that moment I had been marked. Weeks passed. I tried to move on. I threw away the clothes I wore that night, got rid of my phone, changed cities, burned every bridge that led back to the people who had gotten me that job. But paranoia isn't something you can leave behind. It sticks to you, follows you like your own shadow. Every night, I dreamed of the Red Room. Sometimes it was empty. Sometimes it wasn't. Sometimes I woke up convinced the architect was standing over my bed whispering through my walls. Then one night, months after it all, I found myself at another high-profile event. Smaller scale, corporate, supposedly safe. I didn't want to be there, but I needed the paycheck. I was standing near the back of the room, keeping eyes on the exits, when I saw him. Terrence Howard. He wasn't talking to anyone, wasn't smiling, just standing near a window, staring out like the view was trying to warn him of something. And then he turned. He didn't look surprised to see me. It was like he'd been waiting. He walked over slowly, moving like someone who knew exactly how much attention not to draw. When he spoke, his voice was low and smooth, but his eyes were full of weight. You ever feel like you walked into a place you already dreamed about? He asked. I didn't answer. This house, these people, it's a rerun. Different cast. Same story. I nodded, too stunned to speak. You still got yours, he said. Got what? He smiled, but it was hollow, no joy behind it. Your man card, your mind. Most of us lose it the first night. They don't take it all at once, just enough to make you think you owe them. He leaned in closer. His voice trembled now, just slightly. Once you give it up, you start disappearing. From the inside, it's not fast. It's slow, it's quiet, but it happens. I looked at him, heart thudding. Why are you telling me this? Terrence didn't say anything at first. Then, his eyes shifted over my shoulder. His face tightened. Because he's watching you now. That's the last time I went to anything that even resembled a party. I quit the security business the same week. I've kept my head down ever since. New name, new city, no digital trail. 'Cause here's the truth. No one believes this story. Not the cops, not the press, not even the ones who should believe it. They all think I had a breakdown, saw too much, or that I'm lying, that I'm making it all up for attention or cash. But I'm not. I know what I saw. I know what followed me. I know that somewhere out there, Wayne What's left of him is still alive in some way, still bound to the thing they called the architect, still tethered to that house, still waiting. And I also know the room is still open. That's the part people don't understand. The Red Room wasn't just a physical place. It wasn't a secret basement or cult bunker. It was a doorway, a ritual site, a spiritual wound carved into the bones of the earth. When I ran, it didn't close behind me. It stayed open. It is open. And I carry it with me now. Every night, when the world quiets down, I hear that hum. That low, vibrating sound that rises up through my spine and settles behind my eyes. Sometimes I dream in symbols, waking up with marks on my skin that vanish before morning. Sometimes I hear my name, whispered like a memory, echoing from places no one should be calling from. There's one more thing I need you to understand. I've called him Wayne this whole time, but that's not to protect him. It's to protect me. Because if you knew who he really was, if you dug into his rise, his contracts, the people he used to know, you'd find a trail. And if you followed that trail far enough, it would lead you back to the party, to that night. And then they'd come for you, too. The architect doesn't let go. Not really. So if you're watching this and laughing, if you think I'm just some washed up rent-a-cop chasing ghosts, go ahead. Keep laughing. Just pray you never get an invitation. Because once you step into that red room, you don't leave clean. You leave changed. Or you don't leave at all.